Hello beautiful people, happy Saturday and welcome to your practical application of astrology and my personal story share. So we are one day away from the new moon in Pisces, the last lunation of this astrological year, and actually tomorrow I'm going to release my collaboration with Adrian, which is the chart analysis and diving deep into the astrological aspects. So that will be coming up tomorrow because next week actually there is nothing much going on astrologically, which is just indicating how powerful this new moon in Pisces is going to be tomorrow. So actually I'm going to do something a little bit different this week and I'm going to release it on Monday, but tomorrow my collaboration with Adrian is going to be released. So if you would like to hear more in-depth interpretation of the new moon in Pisces with the chart analysis and be able to see the chart as well, then stay tuned for tomorrow. But in this video I'm going to talk about what is leading us to the point of the new moon in Pisces. So I'm just going to name the main things that took place this week and then we're going to pick up from there. So on Monday we had the closing sextile between Mercury in Pisces and Uranus in Taurus, and also the closing sextile between Mars and North Node. Mars is the ruler of the North Node. Then on Wednesday we had the closing sextile between Mars and Chiron. So Mars now is reactivating the same thing that Venus did last week. Then on Friday, yesterday, we had the Mercury-Neptune conjunction in Pisces, so the cycle between Mercury and Neptune that began in March 2023, while Pluto was still in the sign of Capricorn, and before Pluto moved into the sign of Aquarius for the same time, for the first time, that cycle now ended, and a brand new cycle had begun, which is under the influence of all the personal planets conjuncting with Pluto recently for the first time in the sign of Aquarius. So this is a very different flavor because now Mercury being in a new phase with Neptune, and Neptune is the ending, is the totality, is the meaning. And Mercury actually later on tonight, or if you are living across the Atlantic on the European side and further, it's going to be early tomorrow morning, Sunday morning. Mercury is moving into the sign of Aries, and he will be actually the first of the personal planets in the sign of Aries, while everybody else is still in Pisces and Aquarius. And this is what's going to be taking place for the new moon in Pisces. Mercury will be in the sign of Aries on 0 degrees. And you can see that very clearly in the chart if you do choose to watch the collaboration with Adrian. So today, Saturday, before Mercury moves into the sign of Aries, we are actually experiencing Mars square to Uranus. So this is the closing square. And interesting is that Venus was making the square to Uranus on the day of the full moon in Virgo. And now we have a new moon in Pisces, and Mars, as the ruler of the North Node, is making a square to Uranus only a day before. And also Sun at the same time, literally 6 minutes later, is making a sextile to Uranus. So Sun being in a sign of Pisces, illuminating to us what it is that we need to release. And this is what it's all about. We are letting go of the cycles of the past that no longer resonate with us and no longer support us in this going forward, because with all this Aquarian activation, it's about going beyond. It's about upgrading the previous experiences, and with Pisces is about transcending them. So we're going into the completely different direction as I've been talking about and everybody else was talking about. And of course this is preparation for the eclipse seasons, because after this lunation, this new moon in Pisces, the next one will be an eclipse. It will be the full moon in Libra, in Aries season, of course. And then in April, we'll have the solar eclipse in the sign of Aries, and that will see new cycle of new cycles that we will not have the full moon lunar eclipse of, but we will have the full moon in Pisces, which will be the eclipse, which will be in September. So we will see much more what is being seen in tomorrow. We will see more details about that in Virgo season in September. Okay, and then tomorrow, as I mentioned already, is the new moon in Pisces. For me here in Mexico, it will be at 3 a.m. I know for you guys in the US, the clock will be moving. So so the time difference will be a little bit different because Mexico doesn't change the time anymore. And anyway, at the same time as we have the new moon, we will actually experience the first sextile between Mercury and Pluto since their conjunction last month. And also for me here in Mexico, moon will move into a sign of Aries tomorrow night, Sunday night, but for you guys in Europe, it will be already Monday morning. So this is technically it. As I mentioned, there's nothing going on next week apart from Venus moving into Pisces on Monday, and then Sun is going to conjunct Neptune on Sunday, a week later, Sunday the 17th. But I will save this for my next video, which, even though it will be astrological forecast without much of aspects taking place next week, but I have something in mind what I'm going to do with that. But anyway, so practical application of astrology here. So how has this week has been showing up for everyone, really? Because what is really showing up in the skies, and this is the pattern for the past almost 2 weeks now, we have the closing sextiles and closing squares. So there is all this closing, and of course, being in a Pisces season is all about closing, because it's the last sign of the zodiac, is the totality, and the culmination is the totality of understanding the cycle that came before, that is now ending. But in this case, because of the nature of things that we are experiencing currently, it's actually closing of the cycles of everything that came before, especially the Pisces age. So it's not just this cycle of the 2023 to 2024 astrological year, but it goes well beyond that also, because Pluto is culminating its transit through Capricorn and everything else that's taking place, everything else that we've been discussing. So this is a very significant new moon, even though Pisces usually goes quite undetected because it's the 12th house, it goes hiding. Pisces, it's kind of like the quiet one that contains everything, because Pisces contains all the other zodiac signs that came before it. That's why it's the totality, and it's the return back to the source, so the energy can be recycled and reborn again as something completely new. So that's why it's interesting that we have all these aspects that are talking about last sextiles, especially between the ruler of the North and the South Node, Venus and Mars, and as we had the sextile to North Node and Chiron. And then the last squares from Aquarius to Uranus in Taurus, and also before the Jupiter, because it's the stories that are ending. And also with Uranus is the thing that fragmented us, the things that disconnected us from our soul, that took place over lifetimes, when I already discussed this previously, where we slowly over the centuries became disconnected. We became disconnected from our soul, from ourselves, and also from one another, and also from the source. Like, we just feel alone, we feel disconnected, we feel that, well, like the whole world kind of, we carry all of that on our shoulders. And in a sense, it's so paradoxical, because we are all part of the collective, and we are all part of the one, but the way of perceiving this experience is changing. And this is also something that I was trying to explain in my collaboration with Adrian, where we are all part of the one, but because the way we were conditioning to look at it made us feel disempowered, now we actually trying to return back to wholeness and oneness and unity through an empowered lens, through empowered point of view. And this is how the things are shifting, how things are changing. So that's why at the moment, approaching this new moon in Pisces, which is literally less than 24 hours from when I'm recording this, we are in our collective experience. Even though, as people are very aware, if they're watching me, I'm not really aware so much into depth what's going on everywhere in the world, because I tune in energetically, but I don't need the information. I'm not seeking the information. The information finds me if it needs to find me, but I don't go out there looking for it. But I'm sure that in everybody's personal lives, in everybody's individual experience of this world that we're living in right now, these things are showing up in one way or another, because that's the nature of the energy. And like I said, with the last sextiles and last squares we've been experiencing recently between planets in the sign of Aquarius, and like, depending which one we're looking at, either the North Node and Chiron in Aries, which would have been the sextile, or the square to Uranus and Jupiter in the Taurus. And then now in Pisces, things are they are sextile in that. So it's like the sextiles and squares from Aquarius, and then from the sign of Pisces, which is where Venus will move tomorrow on Monday, and Mars will move on the 22nd. The energy will change again, because they're coming closer to the conjunction point, to the closing point. So as I previously mentioned, the last sextile and the last square before conjunction represents the need for release, the need to break free and the need to release, to culminate. And this is literally where we at collectively and individually in our everyday experience. And now, if I want to talk about my personal experience of this week, going through my little journey here on Pluto line, a lot of things were coming up for me, as I'm sure there are for many people, and actually it's been quite feeling really great, feeling really connected, feeling really elevated. And then, for example, in this particular case, having a conversation with my parents, having a conversation with my dad. And as majority people are aware, these are the main contracts we have going on in our lives. The main lessons we came here to learn come from our family, from our parents, because there is a reason why we were incarnated in that particular bloodline and that environment and belief system and the storyline and all the rest of it. So I had these multiple triggers coming up for me in this one conversation with my dad, where he was shooting arrows at all these different topics, and I was really I really had to sit with it afterwards and try to integrate and understand why that was happening, because I felt great. I felt fantastic before the conversation. I even noticed myself looking forward to it, which is something that is new for me. Usually my conversation with my family is kind of an obligation, because I'm like bracing myself for the attack. But since I've been here and doing the work I've been doing, I've noticed the shift of energy, and things were lighter, and the conversation was actually going better with each next time. But this time it just, for whatever reason, my dad started pulling out topics that are completely irrelevant at this present time, and quite painful, quite hurtful. And I was kind of like, well, why is this even a topic of conversation right now? It's kind of like passé. But then when I had the opportunity to sit with myself, because I tried to understand the meaning, like, okay, well, why this? Because I could just feel how my energy was just plummeting down, like getting into conversation with a big smile on my face, feeling really good about everything. And then slowly, I could just feel like the frequency was just going down. Which is again like, why do I allow something to impact me so strongly? So I definitely had a lot of to digest, a lot of material to work with after that conversation, that actually, thanks to an email from someone else that shared this person's experience, I understood this, because yes, things are changing, and me coming into the conversation with a completely different frequency and point of vantage point of mind, and also living in a literally different timeline, different time zone too, but like in a very different reality from my parents. The reality I'm experiencing is completely different from the reality my parents are experiencing in their lives. And then after integrating all of that, I could understood how it's fear. And this is something which I'm very grateful to someone pointing out for me, because of this person's personal experience, where this person had the same recognition for themselves. And I really, it helped me to click things into place. And I was like, yes, that's exactly what it is. It's scary for some people. It's scary because it challenges their status quo. It challenges their story, because like, in case of my family, my parents, I mean, my siblings, fortunately, especially my sister, is changing as well. She's changing, she's making different choices, learning to put boundaries, learning to step into her authority. She's experiencing her Saturn return. So she's growing into herself, technically. But there is a certain way in my family that has been literally passed on from generation to generation, which of course is dysfunctional by this stage, but this is how it was. And it was the tradition, and it was like nobody questioned it, and everybody tried to keep it going, right? And now there is me completely being the black sheep, completely being like a cuckoo, you know, like someone that just been switched in a hospital because I'm so different from the rest of my family, that is bringing all this new energy through. And now my sister, it seems to be impacted and starting to follow the suite, and hopefully my brothers will eventually as well, to, you know, change the patterns a little bit in their own personal lives. But anyway, going back to the topic, this is something that is scary for my parents, because it's very different from what they were being shown, how things should be, how family should operate, the family dynamics, the belief system, the story, how people should be entangled with one another and codependent, and everybody should know everything about everyone. And my dad, as the patriarch, feels that he should just have the right to tell other people how to live their lives, and he knows the best, and all the rest of it. And then suddenly there is this Aquarian child, Akami, who is like not having any of that, you know, with 4 planets in retrograde, and it's like, no, I'm not doing that, right? And it's scary for him. So that's why, like, I feel that in this conversation, like, I was seriously, this was like very surprising to me. I really observed myself looking forward to the phone call. I was really in a good mood, really high vibe. I meditated and everything, and it was just like dodging bullets again. And I was like, where did this come from? And then at the end of it, I was like, really, you know, like, what has just happened and why? I didn't quite get it, you know, I didn't quite understood it. And then when I had the opportunity to process it, and as I said, thanks to the information that landed on my in my email box, I was like, yeah, this is literally what it is. This is literally what we experience in individually and collectively. We are changing the pattern, but it doesn't mean everybody is ready for that. It doesn't mean everybody likes it, because then if you change, if I change, the environment we are interacting with has to change. That's how it works. Like, if there is no longer frequential match, that the two cannot be in connection, right? And this is my parents, of course. So I feel that obviously subconsciously, because I don't well, I mean, I could be wrong, but I don't feel that this is a conscious pattern on my dad's side, but they can feel the shift, and this is challenging him to change his pattern, my family to change. And some members, as I mentioned, are changing, some are not wanting to change, and that's why there is this opportunity to redefine things, to see things differently, rather than see like, oh my god, my dad is like this, and, you know, like, how can be like that, and how can he say that to me, and, you know, going into all this attack and victimhood and stuff. It's like, actually, I understand. And that's what I've been trying to explain even in my previous videos, when I said that we need to understand the meaning. If we don't understand the meaning of the situation, whatever is the situation, whatever is the trauma, whatever is the story, if we don't understand the meaning of why did that take place, why did it happen, then it's very hard to integrate it. It's very hard to heal it, because otherwise, you know, like, we can put as many affirmation as we want on it, but if we don't understand the meaning, that actually there is a meaning in this situation, it's not just some useless occurrence that took place. Everything has a meaning. Everything happens for a reason. And unless we understand the meaning, then we will just keep repeating the same situation until we learn, right? So this is where I really had to try to look at situation differently, rather than judge and criticize, because I was being judged and criticized. So automatically, that's the frequency we're playing with here. I was being judged and criticized for something. So I had the opportunity to tap into the same frequency and go judge and criticize the other. And of course, like, that's the automatic way of getting there, like, oh my god, you know, they're never gonna change, stuff like that. But I was like, okay, well, we had the knee-jerk reaction of you know, how we're gonna respond to that, and now what is the next thing? You know, what is actually beyond that? What is the whole point? Why is this happening? You know, why would I be attracting this situation when actually I was entering into it with a very different vibration? Why would I be matched to this frequency? And it's because universe is always testing us. Universe is always presenting us with the opportunity to learn the lesson. So it's like, okay, well, are you ready to transcend your way of responding to the situation, or not? Or maybe you need a little bit more of it, right? So that was very interesting observation for me personally to interact with. and observing myself, observing the situation, because I suddenly understood. I suddenly understood why this is happening, and seeing it from that different perspective, that actually he's just scared. He's just afraid because the world as he knows it is scrambling in front of his eyes. My dad is retired, so it's not like he interacts with the world physically so much anymore. He's mostly just at home watching television, watching news, and surfing internet, and getting drawn in conspiracy theories. So he doesn't really interacts with the real world so much anymore. His world is very small. It's literally just whatever he sees on the television, and obviously my mom still goes to work, and then my siblings come in to visit. So that's his world. That's his world. That's all he knows. And now from what he can see on the television screen or read on internet, he can understand that the world is changing, and obviously. There is all different ways of how we can identify this change and whatever label we want to put on it. But then even the world that he's interacting with in his personal life is changing, and that's scary, because suddenly it's like, okay, where is the solid ground? Where is the definition? And this is literally the Saturn in Pisces. This is literally it. There is no definition, there is no solid ground anymore, because everything is changing, because the reality that we've experienced until this point is shifting on its axis. And now, especially now, like literally right here, right now, with this Mars as the ruler of the North Node square in Uranus, and Sun in Pisces at the same time, sextile in Uranus, and this is all prior to the new moon in Pisces that is going to be conjunct Neptune and sextile by Uranus, of course. It is literally this, us becoming conscious of the things that are now passé, that are part of the past, and they're not going with us. Like, I'm not saying everything is not going with us. There are obviously things that we will, that still hold a meaning, and we will hold, we will choose to carry with us into the future, like the things that are valuable and meaningful and actually are supporting us on this path of self-empowerment and self-mastery and self-discovery, and, connecting to the world, to oneself, to the world and reality and one another in a very different way. And this is something which, for someone like my dad, who might or might not change, either way the role he's playing right now, this is alien to him, because the old world, no matter how toxic and dysfunctional, is familiar and comfortable, and he tries to hold on to it for dear life. So that's why when he interacts with a different frequency, in this case me, because I am shifting and changing continuously to become a match to the frequency of the times that we're heading into. I no longer desire to be frequency and match to the things that I came from, that are no longer in alignment with my soul, with my path, being Aquarius rising. And this is scary, and this is happening in many people's life, where they might find that maybe they are observing that the people that they cared about so much and played such an important role in their lives, they just don't speak the same language anymore. They are not a frequential match anymore. And for me, because from traditional astrology point of view, my Uranus is in my 11th house, from the evolutionary astrology is in the 10th. But in the traditional, it's in the 11th, and I never kept friends for long. People come and go in my life. Uranus is just like, okay, next, and it's not like I don't care, or I don't wish to have a long-term friendships, but what takes place is the more I change, the less people can relate. And this has been literally the story of my entire life, and I never understood it, why I recycle friends so quickly, because there are a lot of people, there were a lot of people, not so much anymore, I believe, that don't really want to change so much. Like, people were being conditioned and programmed and taught that things should stay the same, that we make certain decisions in life and then we stick to it, and that's it for the rest of our life. The same husband, the same house, the same neighborhood, the same job. And for some people, this is what they want. But we were being told that everybody should want this, that this is the same story for everyone, and that is not the case. So people like myself that are continuously changing and growing and evolving, and they're not even the same people they were 6 months ago and stuff, and there is this continuously new avenues of interest, and which is also something that I was being judged for all my life, that I can never stick with anything for long, and I'm always moving on to next thing and next thing and next thing, and why do I need to study all these different things and do all these different courses and have all these different tarot cards. And yeah, that is the latest one. Because I'm getting them delivered to my parents' address because I don't have an address. And they're like, why do you need all these tarot cards? Why do you need all these different things, right? And I'm like, well, because different energy talks to different people, right? It's just not like, oh yeah, I'm gonna use the same thing for everyone. And I mean, I'm not saying that it wouldn't work, but like I usually intuitively tune into the energy of the person I'm going to be interacting with and go like, okay, I feel they would like to, speak to this deck, or this deck would like to speak to them. So anyway, that's a side note, but this is where I feel that all these closing sextiles and the squares are really showing up, that they are really showing us the patterns of the cycle, because this is the closing sextile, closing square, so the cycle is about to close, to end, the upcoming conjunctions. Actually, a lot of them are going to be in a spring, in the next stage of our journey, next season. Apart from Uranus, Mars, that's in summer. So yeah, we have the totality of understanding of the cycle until this point, and now is the cleanup time. Like, does this serve me? Is this allow me to grow? Is this restricting me? Is this limiting me? Am I keeping it for the next cycle? Am I releasing it? What's going on? But this is not just any cycle of a new astrological year. This is a massive new cycle, because this is literally the beginning of the Aquarian Age, like properly, like Aquarian Age manifested, not just theory, like, oh yeah, we are in Aquarian Age. Now it's like manifesting. Now it's really happening because of the Pluto in Aquarius energy, and Pluto is the soul desire for incarnation, the growth, the evolution. That's all Pluto. So Pluto being in Aquarius, it's like really happening, right? Really now. So that's why this equinox, like this new moon in Pisces and the upcoming equinox and the new astrological year, this is not like just every year. Like every year there is an equinox, every year there is a new moon in Pisces. No, this is very different. This is a new moon in Pisces, that is the last new moon of the past year, that is showing us with all these aspects that are present at the moment, except for Mercury being on 0 degrees of Aries. Mercury is already ahead. Mercury is saying, well, we need to start thinking differently. We already have to think differently because Mercury is already making sextile to Pluto after the conjunction. So we have the opportunity to see what it is that it's no longer coming with us, what it is that just cannot play the same part. Actually, in this conversation with my dad, I had to put a very strong boundary with regards to a question that he was asking me, which is very personal, and I just don't feel that it's any of his business personally, because this is again something that is learned in my family, at least, that everybody should know everything about everyone. Everything, all your things, all your personal stuff, all your financial situation, all your business. And I'm like, no, actually, I'm almost 40 years old. I'm gonna be 39 next month. And I'm like, my life is my life. Your life is your life. I don't need to know all the details about your life. That's your life, But my life is my life, and I'm keeping it private to a certain extent. Even if you are my dad, you don't need to know everything about my life. So I had to put a boundary, and my dad was very surprised, because he actually, I don't think, ever been said no with regards to that question. And I was like, no, I'm not going to be talking to you about this anymore, because I don't think that it has anything to do with you. And this is where we are learning to put our Capricorn hat on and put a boundary. And I'm not saying that it's going to be the same thing for everyone. Maybe for some people, answering the question he was asking would be okay. For me, it's not. So this is where we have to discern personally. In your own personal experience, you need to discern, where are you putting the boundary because of what is important to you. And you don't need to explain it to nobody, because you are the creator of your life, and universe presents you with these opportunities where this boundary comes up on your radar, whether do I want to put a boundary here or not, because it's your personal experience, and nobody else can tell you that, well, that was right or wrong, because nobody else knows your life. Your story is unique to you. So that's why That's what I mean. You know, we can no longer go to someone else to tell us, hey, what do you believe I should be doing with my life? That is not how it's going to be happening going forward, because then we'll just keep giving our power away. And this is not where we at, because Saturn is in Pisces, in closing phase to Neptune. Actually, Saturn is in closing phase to this new moon, and Neptune is in the new phase. We are seeding a new meaning. Yes, we are seeding the unity and oneness, returning back to the source, back to the oneness and wholeness of our soul, so we can expand more. Which means like it's literally like this. That's what I mean. That's what I struggled in my video with Adrian yesterday to try to explain this. Because we want to return to oneness, but actually we want to return to oneness by being empowered. Not feeling like, oh yeah, we are all connected, therefore we are all martyrs and we all depending on each other, because we do, but not in that way, not in a way we were being told. You know, like we all impacting one another, but we are not here to create codependent relationships. We are here to find our own sense of self-empowerment and connect and reconnect in an empowered way. So the experience is very different to the experiences we've experienced in the past. And my family, and I'm sure perhaps it's for many others, is literally the perfect manifestation of the past conditioning. This complete codependency and, you know, like living in each other's life and, you know, like telling each other how to live it, and, you know, like just showering judgments and opinions. And it's like, yes, you know, everybody has a right to their opinion, and offer advice is asked for, but not to judge the other person if they don't agree with that, or if they don't adopt the same opinion or whatever. So this is where we really need to start focusing this energy that we keep leaking and wasting by trying to, in a sense, control other people so we feel safe. We need to start directing it on ourselves, so we can become whole again, so we can actually then create a healthier relational patterns, a healthier relationship with one another. So, for example, the way I see it with regards to my dad, which might or might not manifest, is that, well, I'm a grown-up person, I take care of myself and my affairs, and I am happy and willing to interact within this boundary. Like, this is what I'm willing to share, this is how much time I can offer, how can I spend, so I can actually keep myself healthy and nourished, and give to myself what I need. And it either is what the other person agrees to or not. But I'm not going to sacrifice or be someone else for that someone else, so that someone else is happy. Like, no, you know, we are each responsible for our own happiness, because then we expect other people to do the same, and they won't, because they're not obliged, right? So anyway, so that was one of the things. And I also felt that there was so much pent-up energy, like so much emotion, like boiling under the surface. And I already shared this with my friend yesterday. Like, my experience is that there is too much unexpressed emotion within me, because this goes all the way back to childhood. I used to be very, very sensitive child, very emotional, very sensitive. I was crying all the time, and I was being mocked for it. And that was again my dad. My dad is my biggest teacher. We both have Jupiter in the first house, but his is in Sagittarius, mine is in Aquarius. So my dad is definitely my biggest teacher. And when I was a child, my dad was mocking me for that all the time, and making me feel ashamed for being so emotional, for crying, and just feeling too much and stuff. And then I shut it down. I just shut it down. And now I'm trying to retrieve it, because I became so disconnected, because I didn't want to be laughed at. They were like, literally, I could go for years without crying, because I had to shut it down, because it was not desirable, it was not welcome, because I was being too sensitive, and that was being classed and labeled as something very bad, something that my parents are ashamed for. You know, like if they come to school and the teacher would say that I cried or something, they would get upset. You know, they would say like, you're making us feel ashamed or whatever. So I went through life where I kept suppressing my emotions, and I just detached from that aspect of myself, which caused all sorts of situations showing up in my life that then eventually, when I would get to the point of having my heart broken or something and started crying, it was like it wouldn't stop. It was just keep coming, right? So anyway, so now interestingly enough, how it's showing up for me when I know that the time of the release is coming, because there is too much pent up, unexpressed, unreleased emotion, is that I start spilling water. I start spilling things. I pour myself a glass of water and it overruns, or I knock something over, or tea, or like it just starts. Water starts leaking, right? So I know that okay, the time is coming for release. And I mean, if you have to be flooded with emotions and cry, Pisces is a good time to do it, especially Pisces New Moon. So sorry, I'm eating my own hair. So yeah, so actually after that conversation with my parents, I had a dentist appointment. So that gave me a good opportunity to release some emotions, because the NAMI injection was not working. Even though the poor dentist tried to give me 3 of those, they weren't working. So yeah, so I definitely shed a tear or two over there, and I was like, okay, it's just all coming full picture in that one day. It was just literally such a interesting learning experience. And then apart from that, how I already shared last weekend with regards to my cleanse that I was undergoing a week prior, between the Virgo full moon and then last weekend. It was meant to be 10 days. I stick with it for 7. Well, I mean 5 days fully, and then I just switched to fruit because I was starting to get vertigo and I was almost passing out. So anyway, what that really taught me, because you see, before I started that, because I've never done a detox or a cleanse of this kind in my life, I don't do diets. I adjust my lifestyle. I don't do some crash diets or something, but I did this because of the cleansing properties of like detoxing. And I channeled for myself, and I got a green light because my friends were being concerned for me. And I was like, okay. And even while I was in it, and I was like, this is not working for me. I don't like this, like Taurus here. Don't like this. I'm stubborn. And I channeled for myself again. And that was actually the message that I shared on Instagram almost 2 weeks ago now, because it was after my first day of this cleanse. I got the perseverance that no, you stick with it, you persevere, you build in your strength. And I just didn't understand. I was like, well, why am I supposed to stick with something that is actually not making me feel very good? Which I'm sure a lot of people that do regular cleanses and detoxes would say like, well, that's the whole point, right? It's not usually feeling good because you're releasing a lot of stuff. But afterwards, things really clicked for me. And it wasn't, again, I didn't achieve what my ego wanted to achieve. It wasn't like my ego was like, okay, let's lose some weight, let's get skinny, and it wasn't that. And because that was not happening, I was like, the ego was getting upset. Like, I'm not doing this. Why should I be doing this? I'm seeing no result. Not the result that the ego wanted to see, right? But again, because trying to stay attached to the past story, to the past way of being. But actually what happened afterwards was, because this is what I was being guided to, that you're going to receive a reset. And I was like, okay, well, I looked at it from the physical, human, three-dimensional perspective, and I was like, okay, reset. I'm going to reset my body weight. But actually that's not what happened. What really happened was that I resetted my relationship to food and my body, because I have a completely different appreciation now. And it's not about skinnier or not, it's about, well, I see things differently, and I have a much greater appreciation to the things that I was taking for granted before. And also the other thing was that actually now I'm much more sensitive with regards to what do I want to put into my body. It's not sensitive in a way that I'm going to have necessarily allergic reaction, but I'm much more discerning. That actually, is this serving me? So this is how I feel that we train in ourselves. And this was just one of the examples, going through cleanse or detox, when we remove the food and just, drink something or whatever. So this is one of the examples. So it's, for example, like when you detox yourself from social media, right? There was that one day when the Facebook, Instagram disappeared for an hour or something. I wasn't even aware because I wasn't, I wasn't on it. I was outside. But when we remove something from our life for a certain, period of time, then when it comes back into our life, we are much more discerning about the energy. So is this actually working for me or not? Is it in resonance or not? So for example, like restarting my eating, I am now much more discerning, is this actually a frequential match to me or not? Like not just going for choices more subconsciously, even though I've always been very conscious about food and eating. But now it's even like really thinking about it, like, is this actually something that makes my body feel good, better or not? And I feel like I started saying it's the same like when we have it, like for example what I shared last year, that I not undescribed but muted notification from a lot of YouTube channels that I'm subscribed to, so I don't get overwhelmed when I get 20 notifications that all these people released videos, and then I feel like, oh, when am I going to watch it all? I don't have 20 hours to watch things, right? So after I've done that, now I'm much faster to discern, and I actually unsubscribed, not unsubscribed, I muted even more things since, because I'm much more discerning. Is this information, is this content serving me? It doesn't matter if it's true or not. It doesn't matter if somebody else says that it's useful or not. It doesn't matter. So this is how I feel each of us is recalibrating our own inner guidance, our own inner compass, that we remove something from our experience for a certain period of time, hours, days, doesn't matter. And then when you go back to it, you kind of like in a neutral, you reset it, the bottoms, and now you can make maybe more conscious choices, whether it's the food, whether it's the content, whether it's the people, right? Whether it's the people that we surround ourselves with. When we interact with the old energy, but we had this moment of pause, moment of stillness, and now I understand why Spirit is taking me here. When we have this moment of in between, the stillness, when we kind of like recalibrating, then when we are again reintroduce the same energy, we have a very different reaction to it, or response. We respond to the frequency of this energy very differently, because we no longer from the, like being stuck in a unconscious rat race, just like keep going and keep doing the same thing over and over and never stopping and thinking twice, just keep doing it, right? Like not even, ask ourselves questions, but we actually stop, and then we go, is this still serving me? Is this relationship serving me? Is this information serving me? Is this food serving me? That now, for example, after I gave my body a week without any, toxins or anything, just being really pure, I'm thinking twice about the gelato. Not saying I'm never going to have gelato again, or I'm never going to treat myself to something that I know is not really good for me, but I am not just going to go unconsciously and buy myself 3 scoops and not even think about it, which is, again, there has to be a balance. But I'm just saying that rather than, for example, treat myself once a week, I'm like, okay, well, is this actually making me feel better or worse? How is this impacting my body? And then it's like, okay, well, maybe let's just do it at a special occasion as a treat, or whatever. And it's the same with the content or with anything, even certain people, like I said, I had to let go from my life. And I'm even asking myself that question: if this person was to reappear in my life, what would I do? Would I want to spend time with them again or not? And this is where I feel that we are recalibrating. And this is why I feel, because I'm like, why am I even talking about all these random things? This is where I feel the Spirit is leading me, because of the message that I wrote before I started recording, which is what the next week represents. Because I was so surprised when I was looking at the astrology for next week and, preparing, like, okay, well, which video to record first and stuff. And of course, I wasn't going to record my astrological forecast before even the new moon happens, because it's happening tomorrow on Sunday, which actually is, it's good that the next one is going to be on Monday, so it will reset things. Again, the word, it will reset things again. So when I was looking at the chart, not chart, the ephemeris, like what's going to be happening next week and stuff, I'm like, there are no aspects. I mean, there are some aspects between planet and asteroids. So the goddesses are coming into, forefront. That there will be like aspects to Vesta and Ceres and stuff. But there are no like major aspects of the planets, because they all happened before this moon. You know, the aspects that are actually active during this new moon, they already happened now, this week and last week. And I mean, yes, we're gonna have Venus changing sign, and there will be the square, the conjunction between Sun and Neptune exact next Sunday, a week from now. But apart from that, nothing is becoming exact next week. And I was like, that's so weird. Like, it's a very, very, very quiet week astrologically. So that's what I'm saying. Like, this new moon is going to create such an energetical impact that we have no clue. We don't even see right now. And that's why, well, because of what it represents when it's happening and what's to continue, you know, the equinox and the eclipses. But the main point is to help us to reset. It literally, this new moon and the 1 week of quiet afterwards, literally 1 week, no major aspects happening, is the opportunity for exactly what I just experienced with my detox and, you know, all these other things, is the opportunity for reset. To reset your life, to become, you know, to integrate the energies of the past, you know, this culmination and totality of understanding of everything that came before that led us to this point, whether it's this lifetime, previous lifetime, ancestor heritage, you know, collective conditioning, all of it. So we are being reset. That's why even with me and Adrian, we decided to call the video reset, because it is a reset. This new moon is a reset. It's a reset point. And then is the pause. Then is the pause, because we are recalibrating. Everything is becoming changed. Everything is becoming changed. Literally, this is where we are at. Individually and collectively, things are being resetted cosmically because of the energies that we are interacting with at the moment, and because of all the astrology and everything. And like, when I made video for the International Women's Day yesterday on Friday, I said there is no coincidence that is happening on a day of Venus, you know, on Friday, and on a day that adds up to 10, which is the endings and new beginnings, at the time of Mercury-Neptune conjunction in Pisces, the first one since Mercury's conjunction with Pluto in Aquarius. And as I mentioned, Mercury is the only one in Aries. For this new moon in Pisces, Mercury is on 0 degrees. 0 is the unlimited potential, is the void. And Mercury rules Virgo, and the Virgo topic is continuously popping up because of the discernment. We need to be discerning. We need to learn from the past, right? Like, you know, like the hero's journey, like the tools that we accumulated are now serving us to be able to discern, to make conscious choices. And also Gemini, Mercury rules Gemini, and that's where Jupiter will move. After its conjunction with Uranus in April, Jupiter will move the months later, and also Mars conjunction to Chiron, and the North Node is happening right in between. You know, the first one that will be the one to the Chiron, is happening before the full moon in Sagittarius and before Jupiter moves into the sign of Gemini. And Jupiter and Venus will conjunct just before Jupiter moves into Gemini. It will be, I think, on 28 or 29 degrees. And then the conjunction between Mars and North Node, no, actually, it's the other way. No, it's the other way, sorry. The Mars North Node is happening before, on May 19th, and the conjunction between Chiron and Mars is happening on the 30th of May. So that's happening literally right after Jupiter will move into the sign of Gemini, because it represents the choice. It represents a choice. So that's why Mercury being on 0 degrees of Aries during the time of this new moon in Pisces, that is creating the reset point, the cosmic reset for us all, for our personal life and for our collective experience, because we go into somewhere completely different. Once the Aries season starts, once the eclipses kick in, we go in somewhere completely different. And especially by the end of the year, when Pluto will fully be housed in Aquarius for the next 20-year period, and we have the second new moon in Capricorn as the last lunation of 2024. We're going somewhere completely different. So this is why with the Mercury, it's like we need to perceive reality differently, because based on how you perceive it, we are all going to make choice that is going to take us to different timelines, to different experiences, to different trajectories. And this is why we have in the reset point. This reset point, this new moon in Pisces, that is seeding a brand new sense of reality, like a sense of consciousness. Yes, a brand new sense of consciousness, a brand new way of experiencing reality consciously. So no longer from the copy-paste ego mind, which serves its purpose, is the servant. It's not supposed to be the ruler of your life. It's supposed to serve you as a, reference point. But it's not supposed to take over our life. So that's why we keep recreating copy-paste, 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 which served its purpose. It did, but it doesn't anymore, because we live in a very different times, and now this way of living is no longer desirable. That's actually what came through with the channeled message. Is no longer desired, is no longer desirable, because the desire, the soul's desire, Pluto, is in Aquarius. This is what the soul is desiring now, is desiring to go beyond everything that came before. And that's why this new moon in Pisces is so important. Just like all of them, this year all the lunations are important, but this is the last one of the past, the last one of the past, because it's at the same time seeding the new consciousness, the Neptune in a new phase conjunction, and Mercury being in Aries, the new reality which we will be perceiving very differently. Because with the Jupiter going in a sign of Gemini at the end of May, right after the full moon in Sagittarius, which is what was the choosing of the adventure in December, that will be the illumination of that, what adventure we chose in December 2023, during the new moon in Sagittarius. So by the time Jupiter, as the ruler of Sagittarius, will move into the sign of Gemini, it will start expanding on that. Jupiter expands everything it touches, and when it moves into the sign of Gemini, it will be all this multitude of choices that we choosing and tapping into, this different reality, they will start to manifest. And also, Jupiter will be the precursor of Uranus, because Uranus is moving there next year, and then from 2026 fully. So these are it's just so fascinating to me. It's so fascinating. Like literally, I woke up a few days ago, when it was Friday morning, yes. It was right after this Mercury and Neptune conjunction, and I felt different. I felt something shifted. Something has changed. I don't know what, but something has changed. I could literally feel it, because the conjunction for me happened at night. I was still asleep. And then when I woke up, something has changed. I don't know what. And then I was like, okay, yeah, Mercury, Neptune in a new phase now. And Mercury is, like I said, moving into a sign of Aries later on tonight or Sunday morning, wherever, depending where you are in the world. So there are all these energies that are happening for us, with us, and they guiding us into this new direction. And it's inevitable, and that's what I was also saying in my collaboration with Adrian. If we actually understand what's going on and why, because like I said, we need to understand the meaning, because if we don't understand the meaning, then it won't make sense. Then we will be in resistance of that. But if we understand that, well, this is where we at, this is where we at on the evolutionary ladder, and the spiral of evolution requires us to just keep going forward, not going back. But in a sense, in order to go forward, we are experiencing the manifestation of the past right now. Like we can see the totality, right, that is helping us to resolve it so we can spring forward. But like I said, at the same time, this is what's happening. So once we accept that, okay, well, it's happening, ready or not, like it or not, it doesn't matter, and we stop resisting it and actually try to make the most out of it and adjust in a way that, feels the best for you, then the reality that we have the potential to create is something that I guess we can only dream of, or we had dreamed of, before it got shut down in our childhood, where we were being said that this is not acceptable. It's not how world operates. It's not desired. But now with this reset point, whatever you want is desired. Whatever you dreamed about, you want to have a unicorn, good, like just bring it into manifestation, whatever you want. Because the lines between the visible and invisible are so thin, especially now, like tonight, when it's the void moon, before the new moon actually even happens, the void moon in Pisces, the veils are so thin. The realities are literally so interconnected, as they always are, but now it's even more not tangible, because it's not tangible, but it's like it's really felt. We can really sense it. everything is a possibility. So for me personally, this week, what I've been observing and becoming conscious of is that I really just need to let go of this ego, not let go of the ego, but of the ego desire to be always right, somebody criticizes me or judges me or attacks me, to straight go into defense, use the same tools I was being thrown at, but actually to respond to the situations differently, to respond to the versions of myself differently, to understand the meaning, why this had to take place, why I had to be that person, why the people I interact with are the people they are and interacting with me the way they did or they have or they are. So this is literally the entire like recalibration of everything, and at the same time being willing to let go of the attachment to that, of this definition, of these stories, of these ego identities, of this anything. Sometimes I'm just observing my own environment and thinking like, what if I had to let go of everything I have, everything I am, and in sense, like, you straight away the ego go and get scared, like, oh my god, how will I survive, what about all my stuff, but then there is an aspect of myself that gets excited that, oh great, reset, the point of a complete new beginning, where you can start from the scratch and, in a sense, really transcend the limitations of the past, the restrictions of the past identities that serve their purpose, but now, they're a little bit too tight. Those identities are too tight. They don't allow us to go further. So anyway, as usual, I don't know if I'm able to ground the energy I'm tapping into the physical form in a way that makes sense. But yeah, this is like, I just feel like lost in a fairyland, literally, like trying to describe something which I'm like, I don't even know how this could be described in the world we're living in now. But I don't know. I'm not afraid anymore. I'm like, I don't know whatever is gonna happen, but I'm like, I feel so excited because I really feel that the reality of this golden age that eventually will manifest is just going to be so magical. There'll be so like completely different beings, uh, having a completely different experience. And these beings will be us in the future forms. So this is what I'm excited about, that yeah, let's just burn through all this old stuff, and yeah, that's where I'm at anyway. So this is how it's been showing up for me, the shadows of the past popping up their ugly head with in a shape and form of my dad's judgments and criticism and throwing arrows. And then I was like, why? And now I understand. Like, okay, well, you are making him afraid. You are challenging his status quo. You're challenging the old world. And in this case, it's being manifested in the shape of your dad. That it's like, no, let me bring you down a notch. And I'm like, no, I'm not going back there. No, thank you. I don't like it. I don't align. Anyway, let me just read to you what I've got, and then I'm gonna close it because, again, coming up to hour, probably I'm just talking to myself by this point. So, transcendence. You are experiencing a great transcendence of the totality of that which came before. Everything is resurfacing to be discerned upon, healed, integrated, and transcended, so the new can come in fully and grow into something spectacularly beautiful. You are transcending the limitations and restrictions of the past conditioning to return to the wholeness of who you truly are, and to join the oneness of all there is. The experience of your everyday reality is becoming more and more confusing because nothing feels quite the way it did before. Your extrasensory perception is awakening and coming online. You are learning how to use it, learning how to work with it, and learning how to experience life anew from a very different multidimensional vantage point. Your awareness is widening and everything is being adjusted to and everything is being adjusted to accommodate the energies, vibrations, and frequencies that are streaming through onto your planet at the rapid rate. This is why many of you are feeling so exhausted and even overwhelmed. There is a lot to be processed and a lot to be released at this point. Tomorrow, a whole new reality is being seeded, one that is not yet manifested and will look very differently for each of you, depending on the lens you will use to perceive it through. Next week is a quiet one. It's a grand culmination, and the body needs time to absorb the energy and to adjust to the changes. After that, a brand new cycle will begin with the equinox. All that fire of Aries season will bring a lot of creative power of transformation with itself. Things are just about to get pretty fast and exciting. However, now you are at the moment of pause. This is the time for rest and recuperation. Take time for you and nourish yourself with whatever you need. It's time to prepare your energy to release and rest. Set your intentions, tap into your visions for the upcoming times. You are the creators of your lives. Don't allow another to create your reality for you, even if indirectly. Now it's time to let all of the past ways of living that are no longer in alignment with the person you are now go. A new meaning is being seeded, a new way of experiencing life on earth, one that requires a very different way of thinking and identifying the reality around you. Those are magical energies. Do you believe in magic? The new moon in Pisces presents a perfect time to reconnect with the magic of your soul, to reconnect with the oneness of all there is. All unlimited potential is waiting to be manifested. Everything is possible at this time. Don't focus on that which you no longer wish to experience and keep recreating. Focus on the limitless possibilities of what else it can be, what else you can experience, which in the physical realms, what else you can experience while in the physical realms of human life. Be brave to dream. Who said dreams cannot come true or are not possible? These are all stories of the past that served as something to learn from, but now you are living in a different times. This is the present that's leading into your future that will become your present with every passing moment. You give yourself the present you want. Dream big and dream with your hearts fully open. Why waste your life force and all that manifesting power on focusing and recreating the past you now experience the totality of and are ready to transcend? A new era is calling. The golden age is upon you, and you are becoming calibrated to its frequency. Everything that is a vibrational mismatch will feel uncomfortable and repulsive and eventually unbearable to the point where the separation from it will have to take place. It will dissolve and return back to the source for its own renewal into the higher frequency. Reconnect with the light of your soul. It's always there to guide you. Shine it into the world and it will help you to connect with the lights of others. You're not alone, not in the physical, not in the metaphysical realms. We are all connected and everything is impacting everything. The consciousness of unity and oneness is going to become more and more present as the time goes on. It is the ultimate path you are stepping onto now. The path back to the wholeness, healing, and transcendence of the limitations and restrictions of the past that were put upon humanity. That way of being is no longer desired by the source, and it is no longer in alignment with the evolutionary trajectory you are on. You are at the still point now. Use it wisely. Take the rest and take and time you need to give to yourself what's desired by your soul. Listen to your intuition and your own inner guidance. It knows what's best for you. Trust and you'll always find a way through and beyond. Remember, you are never alone. You are loved and help is always available. Be blessed and be at peace, dear human souls. That's it. 1 hour and 4 minutes. Okay, so I close it at here. If you're still listening, thank you so much for your support and your attention. And like I said, tomorrow on Sunday, I will be releasing my collaboration with Adrian exactly on the time of the new moon in Pisces. So it will be released alongside with the energies, and then I will record something for next week, which I will release on Monday. But as I mentioned, because the astrology is a little bit quiet next week, I'll be focusing on something else. So I'm just going to create something. I will try to make it short, and I wish everybody a beautiful rest of the weekend. Enjoy the new moon in Pisces, and yeah, and I'll speak to you again soon. Much love, everyone, and bye for now.